All right, I'm giving people time to read the disclaimer. Time's up. Welcome back, guys. Missing Matthew today. He lost his voice. He got some laryngitis going on. There's been a bug going around. I'm not feeling all that great today either. So, I got a little bit of a cold, but I'm a trooper. I'll just keep pushing on. As long as my voice still works, I'm good. Bear with me if I've got to hit my mute button a couple times to hack along up, but I'll try and be courteous that way. I do have Bullish Bears Sig with me today, and we love getting together and nerding out on stuff. And options are just our bread and butter. We make a living trading options and scalping futures. It's just how we roll. And when it comes to swing trades, we trade both sides of it pretty well. So we're probably going to have a few bearish swing trades that are setting up beautifully that we're going to talk about, and then a couple that are starting to make headway for possible reversals for like some bottom fishing stuff. So some excitement. But we get into this with an absolute sense of zeal, because sometimes our strategies will jive in ways that are just awesome. You get that what's that? The nerd face melt. You just get tingly, like, man, that was awesome. Those kind of feelings go around, and we together we kick ass in the Bullish Bears, and every day we're bringing it to our members. So that's what we do. Let me get the stream up here. Make sure it's working on you. Yep, YouTube is live. We got live in the chat. So if there's anything you want to talk about, if you want to throw us a ticker or anything to look at, we're happy to take a look. And of course, we do try to reply to people in the chat. So if you want to chat with us, cool. If not, after the show, leave us a comment, throw us down any suggestions or anything you want us to look at or even talk about or re-explain. We're good at that too. So anyway, how's the week going for you, Sig? I see you've got a couple of beautiful shorts going.
It's going pretty good for a week where we didn't expect anything. Waiting on OPEX, waiting on POW, CPI, PPI. Didn't really come into the week with a lot of high hope, and yet there's still a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there's things that are setting up for pretty decent, sizable moves, but we're still kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. And I think maybe there's a chance that JPOW gives us the drop today. Maybe, I hope, because I mean QQQ has just been choppy garbage sideways for about 6 days now. It's time. We need a trend. And we were talking about this earlier in both the group and my live stream this morning, and then just a few minutes before the show here. We're talking about two possibilities if JPOW does give us something juicy. Either we get a really nice bearish move for about a half or whole back move on the previous measured move bullish trend here, because I mean that was pretty parabolic. It owes us a little bit of a pullback, but we might have already got it. If he says anything bullish, we could just accumulate here and rip higher. I mean, that's a primary move and a half right here. But in worst case scenario, I mean, we've got a couple pivots to bounce, maybe 509.25. It will be checked. Maybe we get down to 507.50. Worst case scenario, if he just absolutely says nothing but doom and gloom, and we could hit 500 today. Possible. But I think we're leaning on the 60-40 rule. This accumulation is after a bullish trend. It's not a bull flag, but if you squint, it almost looks like one. Maybe we get a measure move to the upside, and I've got a couple targets above. A full block here would be a half or whole. Liquidity zone's right here between 515 and 517. If we push through, 520.70 is about half a block up, and if we get even more rambunctious, we could see it peak at like 528. So that move is possible. Will it happen in one day? We just don't know. We got to pretty much read JPOW's mind and try to plot this. But for now, we're set up. We could go either side. If it's a nothing burger and we just sit here flat, well, we'll just wait till this range breaks and eventually have some decent swing trades out of both the equities market and the indexes. Until then, that shoe's just hanging in the air, man. It sucks. We just got to wait for it to drop. Had a couple of parabolic shorts to go over. I'll get onto those for it first. The first one was it UAL? Yeah, United.
Yep.
If we go on the weekly chart, obviously we see the previous highs here are pretty damn exorbitant. $95, 94 is where the pivot is. If we reject that, man, we will be in put city or call credit spread income or whatever strategy you want to take the ride on the halfback of this thing. I could see it getting as low as $73, but about 75 would be a decent target for shorts on this one for the short term. And look at this parabolic move; it's massive. Thinking about the same targets there?
You know, it's looking at the correlation between that one and DAL and Jets. I'm thinking at least a good halfback into, say, 84 is a good starting place. And then if we can close that gap at 80, then if we break under that, we got a real good trip. But getting the gap closed would be a good start.
I agree. Yeah, $80 would be a nice swing from where we're at. Hold on one second.
Your plunge protection team back there offering a little insight?
I think so. They're scratching at it. I had to put them in their kennels. They were getting 2 run bunches, but I usually let them out when I'm done. But yeah, they were getting rambunctious. So Chewy was like pretty much hitting the target, and they're saying to take profit now, I think is what they're saying. Those guys are awesome. It was hilarious because like a week and a half ago, Matthew and I were in the middle of our broadcast, and they started barking, and jokingly Matthew's like, hey, should we look at Chewy? I'm like, why not? We looked at Chewy, and the setup was beautiful. We're like, hell yeah, that's a bullish move. Let's do it, And it played out and hit the target, and kind of now it's consolidating and falling back. We were looking for a half measure move. It gave us a clean half measure move, and then now we're pulling back, looking for a liquidity zone visit down here at about $31. And we'll see if we can accumulate there and maybe finish this full move out. But it was a pretty good trade. I can get with it. We got into it right in time. It was a pretty good swing. And this is
very nice.
The day we caught it right there. I think it was the 31st. Pretty epic. Nice gap up in the next move. They told us. We listened. And I like Chewy too. I've told this story before, but we were talking to him about having a toy that we just got in. They just shipped it to us, and within like 5 minutes, my puppies, they were little at the time, had ripped an arm off of it. So we were in a chat with them and their bot, I guess, and they said, give Sirius a pat on the back for us, and we're like, oh man, that sucks because he had just passed away a few weeks before. So they sent us a letter of condolences on a card and flowers. What company does that is this size? I can't think of any that would do that. They were absolutely empathetic with that, and they were really, really kind about that. I would not expect that from a big company. That just got me in the feels, but I don't trade with my feels. I trade the chart, but it's a good sign. Good company. I love these guys, so I'll keep trading them as long as their chart's interesting. Why not? Why not make some income on it? And then the other airline we were talking about, Delta Airlines, that was a pretty good short setup too. Nasty parabolicness. And it blew away our previous bull targets. I mean, and then some eventually. I backed out of this move when it rejected half before. That was the last time I talked about it. And then it just went nuts. I totally fell out of love with it and looked away. And I should have went with the bull move. But now we're looking like if we reject off the top of this bad boy, reject off about $68. Hell yes, that'd be a great short. It might even be a great short now, right back to about 58.5. So yeah, we got some swing setups, guys. I'm looking at either some put debit spreads myself, way out of the money, of course. Run my high percentage returns. The swing I had on SQ for the bullish position I had, I took profit on a quarter of the position at 400%, covered my risk and then some. And then yesterday I took off another quarter of that position at 950%. Just insane. And now I'm just sitting with a position that's got profit locked in it. I don't care what happens to the rest of it, but it's got January expiration. So if it continues to swing, I'll stay with it. But SQ's been beautiful. We're looking at a couple other themes too. And did you look at that prison thing? We were looking at Geo and a couple other companies and peers, and we're picking off some of these moves. My bull target before, when we started talking about this theme, was 1740, and it screamed through that. Now we're hitting kind of a wedge forming here, and we're looking at if it rejects half a block here, we could see this thing give half back and start, heading for $20. So this is pretty parabolic too. So I'm gonna wait for this pattern to play out. Maybe J Pow drops a mic and does something with the market, and this will move either way. But if it ends up just kind of swinging in its range, we probably have till about middle of next week before we start to really see anything either continue higher or give that half back signal on Geo here at least. And we'll continue doping that as we go. But this parabolic move was totally unexpected. It just absolutely flat out ripped. I know Matthew made a killing on this thing, but I took my profit right above that 1740. I was done with it. So I'll wait and see what happens. If it comes back down to earth, cool. I can take a short and then maybe go long later. But if this thing continues to just pound parabolicism, well, where has it been? We got one way up here at $30. So, that's that previous high. We always look left. And if it is going to continue to be parabolic above this previous high level, which is where the candle stops here, we can expect that. But for now, I'm expecting a pullback on this. That's just a little too far, I think. So we gotta be reasonable, guys. You were mentioning the inflows on Apple, and Apple is set up for a potential measured move. I put my own self-proclaimed analyst target up here at about 282. It's kind of accumulating right around 220. Do you think the chips are done hemorrhaging for a pullback yet, or are we looking for the hardware producers to start taking some advantage of this and swinging higher?
I think we're going to rotate into chips and out of the software. So we can run it like we can run it as a pairs trade, which, I mean, people really struggle with that depending on who their broker is.
Yeah.
But if you want to run it in just ETFs, you could use something like TSM, or I like SMH. So SMH long for chips, and then say IGV, which I know it's not really liquid, but that'd be your software short. So short IGV, long SMH.
That makes sense. IGV looks pretty parabolic in spite of its illiquid issues. Return to
when you open it up and you see the names in it, that's been all of those parabolic names.
Right. Good options on this one, or is it pretty widespread on the options chain?
Yeah, I mean they're ugly.
By nickel wide or nickel minimum slippage on that.
When we look at SMH, it's let me get the numbers for today. We're looking at 25,000 contracts today. I mean that's not very much.
And we're kind of at the end of the parabolic road here, so yeah, it looks like rotation's due. Pretty nice little compression on the output side of a diamond pattern here too, which is cool. That usually gives us a preceding volatility.
And I think the spark is going to be the NVIDIA earnings to really kind of kick this in the seat to bring SMH against IGV.
Makes sense. And NVIDIA earnings coming up here on the 20th, and it's pretty much strangling or straddling my previous target, that 147.80. I got to brag again. This is what makes us have that 94% accuracy rating, guys. Stuff like this. Exactly where we expected it. So now, yeah, we could easily make a nice parabolic scoot up to that old wolf wave target here and say 165.50 is pretty possible. Wait and see what these earnings bring you, though. Don't like jump ahead of it unless you're selling premium. I know the premium is pretty nice to go with, like, if you were selling condors, credit spreads, and then you can take the, you'll eat crow on the loser, but the winner will kick it. That's a good possibility. What's your strategy for NVIDIA earnings, if any?
The QQQ. It'd be the most obvious way to play and the most liquid. If you think about anything that you could trade, other than, I mean, if you want to pony up the capital and actually trade NVIDIA, then you could do that. But their options are going to be so heavily manipulated and just hedged. Everybody's piling into them. I would rather play the QQQ options for NVIDIA's earnings.
Agreed. And you'll get better flex anyway, because I mean, we're, outside of JPOW, if JPOW gives us a nothing burger, that's the next catalyst is NVIDIA earnings. So it makes sense. We could get on either side of that with some pretty nice leverage. And when we've been consolidating for this amount of time, I got to imagine that if JPOW gives us a nothing burger, the implied volatility is going to fall flat and give us some huge swing opportunities once NVIDIA starts to come into play. I can totally agree with that.
We're not expecting anything from Powell, by the way. He's supposed to go out and open his mouth and not say anything. That's the base case estimate for today, is that he shuts up and doesn't do anything.
So we're looking for no surprises. I'm
right.
Wondering if is that a play to keep his job? All right, I had to go there. But yeah, I think you might be onto something there. I think we may expect nothing from him, so maybe we do get a nice nothing burger. That'd be good.
He's supposed to reassure everybody. The data we got from PPI today kind of reinforced the idea that we would get our rate cut in December, that they've already priced in. And so he may try to confirm that we're still good to go. If he starts to wobble a little bit or bring in language that says, maybe they're not going to cut, that could give us a little bit of volatility today. But I think he's going to come in and reassure rather than start trouble.
That makes sense. And, they tend to be a bit standoffish in that, if they can anyway. Maybe they'll save the big ammo for Jackson Hole this coming year. I love Jackson Hole, man. Those are the best. Yeah, I could lean on that. I think if we do get a nothing burger out of him today, awesome, because then it'll put us in a better position to trade NVIDIA volatility, and how we could almost trade out with a strangle on QQQ, just outright run it to the end of the month expiration and call it good. Let her run. Even with the time decay on that, the implied volatility would be so tight that it would just explode on NVIDIA earnings and win either way. Very rarely I've had situations where I profit on both legs of a strangle in this type of scenario. That'd be really cool. I would definitely injure my elbow, pat myself on the back for that one. But in the meantime, I'd love to see this consolidation continue until then. Just scalp the range until it moves. Nice.
What do you think of NVIDIA or the Qs into 550?
Very possible. I mean, there's room in this block to do it. I mean, we're looking at. Let me crush it down here so we can go find the whole thing. If we take our base down here from this pullback and accumulation, run it right to that candle there, and swing it to the mean of this consolidation we're in, that puts us right in the 550 range. I mean, pretty close, 540s. Yeah, I could see that happening pretty much before the end of the year if things remain bullish. That's one big ass move. It's going to take some time. In this case, probably NVIDIA earnings time.
It fits my bias for this move that we've been seeing since the election. It's like they're pricing in 2 years of market data in these next 2 months. And I think by January, we're going to finish that off. So how far could we move in 2 years? 550 doesn't sound too bad when you think about 2 years.
Yeah.
But we can get that in 2 months. So by the first week of January, we've already completed the move. And they've pulled forward 2 years of his presidency and priced it in right there.
I got to say, I mean, that kind of fits the bill. And then in Trump's last administration, made me as a trader. I mean, the volatility that he brought when he picked up his phone and tweet something was incredible. So some of the options trades I've made on day trading were just, the size was like, I mean, we were getting like 10, 15, sometimes $20 moves on SPY. It's insane. So, I mean, we see that again. Yeah, gravy train. And if we see it compress into the end of the year, even better, because then we catch that whole range coming back for accumulation going into next year. I like that idea. That's a pretty good thesis.
And so when we bring it out like that and you start pricing in 550, because nobody's looking at 550, right? Unless you go over and you look at what we have on quick. And then, you see that there is something going on in the 550 range.
Right. And then if we take, the entire move here, yeah, it puts us right in that same 540, 550 range. So I'm liking it. Yeah, when we get to talking about the platform we're not supposed to all the way talk about yet, I can't wait. And if the timing is right, that comes out exactly in the midst of this. Oh,
they'll love it.
Yes. I can't wait. We had one other thing. I had a request to look into AMSC. Let me see where the comment went here. When I get those comments, they sometimes will disappear on me. So give me a second. I'll look it up. It's right in here. We took a screenshot and Kevin sent it to me in the moderator chat. There it is. So interesting company called AMSC, and they will be part of the electric infrastructure build out for chip makers and data centers. Asked me if I had a chance and would like to discuss at some time. That would be wonderful. Cheers. I promised I would put it right in here. And that was user, is it Lazy Carrot Man? Love that name. Let's pull that up real quick. I'm going to take some interest into this thing in the long term, but it's going to be a little while before we see it fully play. I was going to mention before it even happened this morning that was likely to make a halfback move. It's already done. So here we are right in the open, settling around 30, 31, 30, somewhere in that range there. Look a little further left and you'll see this was just one part of a big ass cup and handle. There's your accumulation on the handle part, the breakout hit target. Basically, you just take this as your primary, and the secondary would have been here. A 1.5 move is right where it broke over. It's likely to finish maybe giving a half back a little further down to like 29 or somewhere in that range. And then if we get continuation out of this, it would make sense for this to be something that picks up a little bit more. It's like the hype kind of jumped the gun here, and this is the sell the news moment. And then we'll wait and see where it accumulates, and if it continues to run. Our primary is set. Run a return to $37, and we could see it step out for another big bull move. If you look left on this thing, it's been trending pretty strong for quite a while here, so it's had its pretty nice run. And if you look even further left, there's that market structure thing again. All that capitalization, accumulation. This is where you would expect a trend to begin. I've told this time and time again, like with SQ and PayPal and all the other transaction disruptors we were talking about. Hell, back when we were nerding out about it about 2 months ago, this was finishing up and setting up to build us into that trend. We're looking at a reversion target on this thing. If that hype takes off and gives us the onion, so to speak, reversion targets are pretty easy to spot. Split that difference here, and gosh, 180 is pretty lofty. But look at all this play in between. All this candle price action back in here is going to give us accumulation ranges, and we can just split the mean and put those out as price targets. So eventually, I like the short-term target here. Within a few months here, maybe it can attack about $58. So I'm going to put my mark on there in purple. And let's see if that lines up with the 4-hour chart the way we would like. Get back to the entrance here. Compress this. If that gives us a straight-up parabolic move to that target, pretty easy. You can set that up. If this was all your primary, that would be about a twofer right in that range. So that could very well explode. Definitely keep an eye on this thing. I think it's going to give us lots of good swing trading opportunities. And in the short term, it's day tradable to really take some decent range on this thing. So I like this one. Thank you for the heads up on this one, for the opportunity to go and look at it. Now it's on my radar. I'm going to trade it. So I like it. As far as the other part of this, we got on a nuclear theme. We got on it right in time. We picked up all the hype on it. kind of the same scenario. I mean, let's take OKLO as a litmus test here.
That had its earnings too.
Yes, and we were so far ahead of this thing. We picked up all of this and then some. My analyst target was previous 1280 and blew through it. I just I took my profit there, got back in the move on this little pullback, and rode it even higher. Now I'm kind of looking at consolidation finally, and there's one big old rising wedge here. Do we think that infrastructure is going to take nuclear even higher? I mean, once the actual power draw comes through with the amount of power AI is going to need, kind of makes sense, right? It seems like there's something else we're waiting for, though. So I'm kind of curious to see what that is. And I think Matthew's kind of catching on to a theme too, and I'm kind of starting to focus on it too. The short term was natural gas was kind of fill the gap in this for now, because it takes a long time to build nuclear infrastructure versus natural gas. You just turn the valve and start cooking it and making electricity with it. So gas was a little faster, obviously. And
there's also a regulatory threat that was coming in, that there's proposals on the table that say they may not want to have these nuclear power centers next to the data centers. And so they're trying to transition this from a Biden trade to a Trump trade.
Right.
Yeah, but it would be Trump regulations and his initiatives, right? You got to have your government initiatives, and you got to get the pork.
It's almost like, I mean, you put that kind of infrastructure next to each other, it becomes a national security issue for sure. I mean, you know exactly where to put the bomb if you're an enemy. I mean, would it make sense to possibly look into maybe the DoD contractors to start picking up some steam on that type of thing if that falls through? It kind of does. So there's a couple other themes kind of hanging in the air on this, and we'll see where the policy goes. But it's kind of leaning that way, isn't it?
I have a watch list that has the modular reactors, services and equipment, fuel technology, the nuclear Bitcoin miners, power producers, uranium enrichers, developers, and then the ETFs, if you would like that watch list.
That'd be awesome. I think we got to start putting a newsletter together to get all those in there. There's a lot. That's more than we have time for in today's show. But yeah, there is quite a bit in there. Can we put like maybe a newsletter post on the Twitter page with all those in it and just kind of explain what they are? I think that'd be awesome. For some reason, I can't get Metricool to work for me, so I can't get any posts out. But I think that's where we should go, is put that together of the newsletter. We can go through the bulk of them. You got a couple tickers?
Well, you tapped on OKLO. If I was going to hit up any tickers time-wise, just to keep things moving, it would be the ETFs. So URNM.
URNM. I dumbed it. NM. Oh, nice. That's a clean chart.
Then we have NLR.
Let me take a look at this.
And URA.
So if we hold support back into 45, 46 bucks here, we got a pretty good shot at returning half, 49.50. And then URA.
Yeah.
Kind of the same setup, looking for half back to about 28.5, and then a swing back higher. I like it.
One of the biggest names institutional wise, where we see a lot of institutional flow, is CCJ. It's an old school one, but it's got good options. It's got a long chart history. So it's not like one of these IPO fly-by-night SPACs. It's been around, and it's got a lot of old money in it.
I remember picking on Kramer with this one when he was saying sell it. We're like, hell no. We picked off the double bottom, and here we went. We got the primary and the secondary on that one. I remember that one. Now it's consolidated for another run. It made a half back here, And then we're set up to continue the trend on this thing, I think. And
I
finally,
can't remember when it split, but remember when it was like 200 and something?
oh yeah, that was a while ago.
21. In 2021, we had that
Yeah.
split. No, there's another one in 22. It split 3 times. Another one in 2023.
Got too big and they needed more volatility.
Yeah, because it just kept climbing and climbing and climbing, and they're like, let's split it. And then they split it again, and then they split it again. It just kept on going.
Sweet. Yeah, that trend is pretty big behind it. Obviously, it knows how to make money. Good play.
So I like this one for when I think of those 3 ETFs, those are good because it's just your collection, your basket. But if I'm looking at where the institutional money is, I always look at CCJ. It's my go-to.
I think that's my new go-to as well. I haven't traded it since this move where we were bagging on Kramer, but I think now I'm going to start taking interest. This is looking pretty good. And then even a 2-hour chart, it's a little choppy, but it's got this little rounding bottom right at the base for our measured move block. I think it'll probably pop one more half back and then start trending. That's looking pretty good. All right, dare I say it? I'm going to put my my own analyst target on it there, about $61. Close enough, $60.99. Sometimes I can't get to the penny with Weeble, but it's close enough. We know where it's at. A couple others to look at real quick. I was kind of looking at Meta this morning, and it's set up to push above our measured move half. So our base target out here is about 650. As far as that platform goes, I mean, we've seen some pretty parabolic moves with Meta, but the strength has just never gone away on this thing. It's just absolutely been on a tear since 22. We got this volatility in this range, and I just sort of split the mean, throw the the daily block on there, and it fits pretty well. Short term, though, I think we're already at the 1.5 for 1, and I think we're going to probably consolidate for a day or two here before we start to finish a trend. But so far, it's looking bullish. I'm going to keep this on the radar, so to speak, and then eventually I think we'll get a breakout move on this thing. As long as it holds above half, we should see it continue on. We have earnings coming out in is that January or February? They report. I can't remember.
For Meta, I was stuck looking at their call wall. Their earnings they just had it in October 28th, so they're not going to have another one until February 6th.
I think February is about where it's at. Okay, we could see a little bit of that trend continue, but yeah, you're right about that call wall. It did kind of hit it. Let's see what we get for probably going into next week. We'll come back to this and see what we are looking at for a continuation of that trend. But I think eventually it'll nail that 650. It's kind of on the way. I know some people are setting up butterflies in February around there too, so it's about where the body would be. It would make sense anyway.
There's some issue with if that app, that social media app, what is it? TikTok. If the TikTok ban under Trump gets kind of goes away, maybe not completely, but they back off on it, that's going to impact Meta. So there is that to think of. And then the way that Snap has been moving, Snap is no, it's not Snap. Everybody's running into this thing. It's podcasts. Is that Snap?
I mean, they do like really short stuff, but I didn't know they do podcasts.
No, I'm getting the wrong one. I have to hit my notes. But the one that is really good for Spotify.
That's it. Spotify, that's right. I'll get to that too. I know right when Trump said he was going to try and lift the ban on Snapchat or on TikTok, I looked at the reciprocate trade. I was like, well, who gets hurt? Snapchat. And that was a quick short. Still kind of going on. I think we'll probably hit about 1040 before we are ready to take profit on that move. And it's set up to finish that move pretty quick, right to that liquidity zone. I love trading Snapchat. It's easy. And then if we go into Spotify, I didn't look at that one yet. Damn, that's parabolic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've been looking away from this one for too long. Holy hell. Are we going to look at shorten that, or you think it's going to go higher? I think you just said it, but I wasn't paying attention.
They got so much activist participation piling in that I think it's going to digest this, but I don't think it's going to flip and fall.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is taking away from Meta.
Gotcha. That makes sense. So if Meta does end up pulling back below that half block, then this would just continue higher and finish a measure move up. Otherwise, worst case scenario, if things calm down a little bit on Spotify, the pullback target would be like 466. But if it just continues with its parabolism, yikes.
I expect it to pause in the run and digest, kind of like it did in April when it had that really nice breakout, and then it pulled back to the breakout point, but it didn't break back down again.
Right.
And we stayed sideways all the way and just kind of grinded higher. That's kind of what I'm expecting again.
April.
Because this has so much participation in it. And
That's
aggressive.
I can't believe I took my eyes off this thing for too long. I mean, it's just a beautiful chart. It's been bullish as hell forever. I use Spotify every day. Every time I drive somewhere, I use Spotify. And sometimes I'm listening to podcasts. Most of the time I'm listening to music and pretty much my heavy metal list. But
now, Berkshire Hathaway has been loading up in Sirius XM for a couple of years now, and he's not done either. He keeps loading up into Sirius, and Sirius XM is getting more and more of these influencers, podcasters, that sort of stuff. I think it's going to be a war between Spotify and Siri.
And then it'll come down to like, well, who pays the best commissions or the best ad revenue? So I know that I know some artists who are just absolutely upset about Spotify not really paying too well for, how much their music is out there. I wonder if they start getting into a bidding war for who's going to pay the best commissions, and I think Siri has more room to take advantage of that than Spotify, if I'm being honest. They get a little bit better coverage. It's like one giant cluster of radio stations, which is cool because then you're not tuning out urgent things like news while you're on your drive. I tend to kind of lean that way, to be like a little bit more favoritism towards Siri, even though I don't use Sirius XM.
I do. I've had it for years, and it's not cheap, right? Like to have a Sirius XM subscription is not cheap, and I can't help it. I can't get rid of it. I use it every day.
It's awesome. So, I mean, in that sense, because it is a little more expensive and also a little more lucrative, so that you can, or better serving, so you can get access to, if you have an absolute, crazy news event, they will give you some alert. It makes sense to me that they would probably be able to start competing with Spotify a lot more if they started offering better commissions for their broadcasters and their contributors. So that makes sense. They got the pockets for it. I might have to bite the bullet and start getting serious. Years ago, I had it, and then I gave up because it was getting more and more expensive, and I went to Spotify. But I tend to listen to Spotify more on my road trips, but I think I might have to lean on Siri. Cool. Well, that gives us some themes to focus on and some reciprocals to go into. Last but not least, there's a couple other disruptors, and we talked about this. It was either yesterday or the day before. We got into it a little bit with Upstart. I was like, damn it, I meant to get in that pullback, but now we're kind of in range to give us another consolidation day or so. What are we thinking on this one? I mean, is it going to follow through with market structure and continue this trend? Because it is pretty much breaking out of that market structure range that we always look at as far as pivots go. I mean, there's one right there. I deleted them all last night for some stupid reason.
on UPST, it had some negativity this morning in the news space, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Me neither.
But it got a crackdown. So I until I get a chance to read it, I would say that if we break the half back on last week's candle, then we're gonna retrace back to $50
pretty easily. Yeah. And then if we hold here, we got a pretty good shot at trading range or getting back into the the 85 range again. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what that does. I mean, it was kind of a similar scenario with my SQ trade. I mean, Piper Sandler came out, gave it an upgrade with a price target of 120, and then everybody started taking profit off. I mean, it kind of never ceases to amaze me. You get an upgrade and everybody sells. But that's how it goes. It's a buy the rumor, sell the news scenario over and over again.
Yeah.
But I think I might take advantage of that pullback and grab a little bit more SQ because I've got a lot of faith in that one. And my whole theme on that is that the Trump administration tends to favor small business quite a bit, and SQ terminals are everywhere you look in small business. Every time you walk into any mom and pop shop anywhere, there's one on the counter. Trust me. So I mean, you start taking that approach, and it's like it makes sense. They're gonna probably gain some serious revenue growth into next year, I'm sure. Same with even PayPal, and then what's that other one that came out? What is it? Not Apple Pay, but the not Venmo. Which one was it? It was publicly traded, but I can't remember what the damn ticker was on it or what the company name was. But another transactor that can kind of take place for small businesses.
Rocket?
And maybe.
RKT?
I mean, they're a lender more than anything, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, you got different tiers on Rocket Mortgage, Rocket Lending. Yeah. It doesn't sound right though.
No. And then with Upstart, it was like, yeah, I guess they got kind of dinged. I didn't read the news yet, but I can only assume it was like maybe some blowback on slightly exorbitant interest rates or something like that. But Zeal, that's the one. Are they publicly traded though? I don't know where the ticker is.
That doesn't sound right either.
No. Oh. It'll come to me. My brain's kind of bent by this time of day. I gotta eat lunch. But at any rate, we got a few swing trade setups looking good. We're waiting for some continuation or possibly a pause, depending on what JPOW does. It'd be cool if he surprises us, but it'd be even more cool if we wait till NVIDIA earnings before we make an explosive move. So kind of be nimble in this chop until you can suck up enough of it to take advantage of an actual trend coming out of this. And the objective is, if you find yourself trying to trade range for long enough, you get roped into it, and then when a trend day finally does come, you're sitting there waiting for the reversal, trying to trade range on a trend day. Be aware that that's possible and catch yourself before you find yourself sitting through an entire trend waiting for the pullback. Just ride the trend. So know where your resistance and support are, of course, and we know that we've got pretty well defined range on QQQ throughout this entire month basically. So let's see where we end up when we finally break this range. And I think not month but week. I think we're gonna be a little surprised by the trend when it comes, probably into NVIDIA's earnings. Unfortunately, we have to wait. But when you start to realize it's just breaking range, it's just as simple as that. All ranges eventually break. All accumulations eventually break. And when I always say don't trade the range or don't trade the setup, trade the break, doesn't mean you can't scalp the setup. So scalping has been absolutely killing it over the past few days, and then eventually that party is going to stop and we're going to start seeing trends. So we'll start trading trends when they come, and I think we're going to see them soon. Either we get a little bit of a move with JPOW today, or we start to accelerate this tightness into just before NVIDIA earnings, and we start to really get loose on the 20th. So hopefully we get a big ass move out of that, and I think we're gonna probably see it. We have time for a couple more. We got a whole 15 minutes left if we want to nerd on to something. I was going to go over a couple reviews and then go with that. Let me see here. EQT kind of hit in the liquidity zone here. We were expecting after this move to return to about $42. That's following through. We'll wait and see what happens with that. If it holds this zone, we can finally finish that 2-for-1 measured move we've been talking about. But if not, if it breaks this, we'll get the half back. We'll go to 38. Pretty easy. Looking at one other energy company, TLN. I don't know if any of you guys caught that trade, but dude, this thing was just awesome. Nailed the analyst target, self-proclaimed analyst target. Went for a half move higher, hit resistance, and accumulated under it. Now we're just under it. We got a pretty good chance of follow through to finish the MM on this thing to 233, but wait a day or two, maybe wait till Monday, and we'll see possibly a swing in the trend on that thing. Take note, I mean, that this point on to our target was pretty parabolic. It happened really fast. So give it a little time on this accumulation and it eventually will break. But when it does, it's probably going to have about the similar, at least half that energy into it. And it's either going to pop right up to our upper range target or get slammed right back to our previous target. So it'll go fast. It's already threatening fast right now in the pre-market. I mean, it went to 228 and then wicked right back. So be nimble on this one. What was that gas company we were talking about? There was one more. It was a Matthews list here.
You got a request in the chat too on coin.
Oh, yeah. Coin's been kind of, I don't know. I've been scalping like Bitcoin nano futures, but we're looking for, I mean, pretty obvious stuff. We got the primary and secondary move. This is about half our block back. It wicked it pretty much dead on today. You can see filled the gap. Now we're looking for, do we continue in this parabolic trend or do we start getting a little bit more of a bounce back from profit taking? And, you know, Bitcoin hitting 90K and everybody's got that $100,000 mark on there. I know they say spoofing is illegal, but there's so many institutions who know everybody and their brother has that $100,000 target on there. This is the time where that's going to take effect on the old adage of, you know, buy the rumor, sell the news type of thing. And the fact that it got so stinking close and then everybody started buying it there. Yeah, your exit liquidity, guys, pay attention. Coin's kind of the same way. You know, everybody started chasing this parabolic trend and then there's your exit liquidity. Well, they don't necessarily want to just take profit and let it, you know, sell down to, you know, oblivion. It's essentially just expected moves. So if you look at the short term, the 2-hour chart here, it's pretty obvious. Okay, accumulation, there's a pivot right there, 257, 258, about range. Close the gap. Let's see this continue there. And then if we accumulate here and start to break back into a bull move, well, obviously you can trade for the old 86.6 fib. And if Bitcoin does hit, you know, 100K eventually, it's likely to ride that trend. So this is giving you an opportunity to either if you were long already, you took your profit smartly. If you took it recently, I wouldn't necessarily short this, but I would wait patiently for accumulation at about the half back and see if we can kind of keep into this trend and keep going higher. But anything that's parabolic like that, I mean, you've got to be reasonable. You can't just chase this. That's a bad strategy. Wait patiently for it to come to you and then trade it. If you wanted to, sell some puts if you want to get paid for your patience. I like getting paid to wait for my targets. And heck, I think a 255 put would almost be giving you, let's see, in like 1 week expiration. Off the top of my head, that's probably pretty close to 6% yield. Just thinking about my last time I traded coin is about in that range.
A little insight that I picked up. So Trump's been labeled the Bitcoin president, and after his election, around the world, monetary flow into coin and presidents and leaders around the world from different governments all took notice and kind of sat up, started paying attention. And there are a couple of nations in the world that use Bitcoin in their as their national currency. And this has got institutional flows coming in from all around the world, and it is lit. And everybody that is focused on it is saying that, it's obviously it's way overbalanced right now. It's parabolic, it's sticking out there in space. We need to expect some sort of digestion, but don't expect that it's done anytime soon. And I really found that insightful. There's a lot to dig into that kind of statement, but it can't be overlooked, right? That there's nations who use it as their national currency. Trump is now the president. They're talking about a U.S. reserve
Right.
in Bitcoin, like we used to have a U.S. reserve in gold, like think Fort Knox. And they said if he does use the government and do a national reserve currency of Bitcoin in the U.S., then they're talking about 600,000 in Bitcoin rather than
Wow.
86,000 in Bitcoin or 92,000 in Bitcoin. That number was shocking to hear.
Yeah,
to say the least.
absolutely. And if you just trade technical analysis, I mean, you can't help but notice that descending wedge at the top of a trend. That's exactly it. There's going to be some rebalancing, some digestion here. I might even just adjust this way. Let's go with that.
And in my crypto watch list, I have a lot of semiconductor names. And if we're looking for semiconductors up, software down, it's going to tie in with Bitcoin up, semiconductors up, software down.
Agreed. That makes sense because everything kind of balances that way. Yeah, I mean,
so for coin swing trade, if it stays above 280, it's still a long.
Agreed. And if it's just going to consolidate a little bit, a little pullback is a gift. And around let's say if it holds 280, cool. If it gives you even more and gets to that 258 target, great. But look for this gap here to be like about where the bottom of that range is. 270, more reasonable. But long term, it's still bullish as hell in spite of being parabolic because Bitcoin is still likely to hit that $100,000 target for sure. But just know everybody knows it's there. So I know they can say that nobody spoofs anything, but it's sort of like a carrot on a stick dangling some exit liquidity to take profit and be reasonable and then continue the trend. It's just how the market works. The old adage on that is like the market is designed to remove money from the hands of the impatient and put it in the hands of the patient. Same principle. Just
last in, first out.
That's it. That's it exactly. So you catch the trend, be the last one in. That's fine. Trade the break, I always say, and then just ride the meat and potatoes to your target. Pretty simple. But I think I'd like to see coin digest a little bit more. I'd love to see it come back to 258. That's about the mean of this move. But if it holds the top of this gap around the 270 mark or the 280 mark ish in that range, okay, I can get with that too. I'll wait and see what this does on this consolidation, and if it gives us a good break and a good reversal, cool, stay long. That thing looks beautiful. And same scenario with Bitcoin. I love scalping like really short-term stuff. I picked off a really nice move back to, what was it, 90,500 last night from that dip down to like 88,000. That was pretty sweet. This is a 5-minute halfback setup. And, you start learning those on the short-term times and you start applying them to your swing trades. They work the same. And halfback is pretty obvious. I mean, you can't miss that. It's gleaming right at you on the chart. So, if it hits that, cool, take it. If it hits the previous consolidation and bounces, take that. Pretty simple. With that, we got one more. Folks over at Quasar. OTC desks offering 2.5% premium for BTC right now, low liquidity and big demand. So like basically no one's selling. So that makes sense. We can always ride higher. I wouldn't say take a second mortgage out and buy more, but people are still trying to buy it here, and no one's selling. So that can produce some pretty insane squeezes. Good point. Right on. Anything else to add?
I think you got it.
Right on. I think it's a good time to, just be patient. This market's going to give us some better setups. We've got a few targets we've called out. We've got a few ranges to trade, and yeah, either the shoe drops with JPOW today or it drops with Nvidia next week. Just have to wait and see. But we got some themes at least, and we got some things to focus on. So let's stay spry and nimble in this market until it breaks, and then we'll either get swifty or we'll just ride the party wave and take the trend out. Right on. Well, thanks again for joining me, Sig, man. It's awesome to have you on for once and for all. And I enjoy our nerd sessions every time I get a chance to. And when it comes to option stuff, I always say you've probably forgotten more about options than I'll ever know. But somehow we come together and make some killer great ideas. So we'll keep it up. And
It's been fun. I appreciate you having me on.
definitely fun to have you on. And I'm going to have to stick to my plan. I need to get a newsletter going with this because the stuff we've been calling out has been just awesome. I mean, from the get-go, the first show like Matthew and I did back in the day when we were just bagging on Kramer because that was fun. And he had an ETF built on it. Since from that point till now, still holding that 94% accuracy rating, which is pretty damn good. And that's on the call-outs we give, on the price targets we give. The things we say just to kind of hang on and wait for, those don't count. But the ones we call out, awesome. We're right on it, and we're hanging in there. So I can be proud of that. And then Sig is no exception. He's been pretty much dead on with his stuff too. So all together, we just kick ass at the Bullish Bears. That's all we got to say. Well, thanks again for joining us. We'll see you guys next week on Tuesday. Hoping Matthew feels better and gets his voice back so we can get in here and kick ass on the charts. And then I think we want to do where Matthew and I continue to have guests on. So I mean, if you're interested and you got time, Sig, we'd love to have you on next Thursday.
That sounds good. Let me